Welcome to Friday TGIF. It's January 9th, 2026. When you or a loved one has suffered serious harm, look to Wyoming's board-certified truck accident lawyer, Grant Lawson, leading the charge for accountability and fighting for safer roads. Don't settle for anything less. Visit truckaccidents.com. Well, chilly conditions will be found. Yeah, it'll be like January out there, actually, for another day today. Cold northwest winds aloft and low pressure over the southern Rockies will mean southern Colorado, New Mexico, the mountains of Arizona, and some snow into the southern plains will be noted with the remains of the system moving out today. Then we'll have cool northerly wind flow aloft as building high pressure comes in. So over the weekend, there really is very little happening. Dry, cool conditions will be noted. Temperatures slowly moderating through the weekend and probably up through Monday into early Tuesday. Then we have a northwest flow pattern, not a really strong one, that develops Tuesday and Wednesday. There might be some snow showers and snow flurries Tuesday into Wednesday in some portions of the high plains and Rockies. Nothing to write home about, but northwest flow may bring a few disturbances in. Then, as we've been discussing over the last few days, this massive high pressure ridge develops along the west coast and will dictate how the weather pattern goes late next week in directing some colder air out of Canada into the lower 48 while completely shutting off any chances of precipitation along the west coast for a while. Now, how long will that high pressure ridge along the west coast stick around? Well, we're going to go into what is called the Euro weeklies. This is something where the European model, and the other models do this as well, try to forecast 6 weeks in advance on a very coarse scale. And we'll take a look at those, and maybe that'll give us some indication of what the end of January and into the month of February might look like. Beautiful shot of a snow squall there in Sweetwater County near Green River, Wyoming yesterday as these systems came on through a fractured California storm again. But when winds aloft turn from the northwest to the southeast, you get instability and you'll get snow shower activity like this. And some of you will be seeing that today, especially early in the day in some areas. High pressure starting to build into Owens Valley, California there. And they've got several days of, quiet California weather coming on in. There's a shot in Casper. Notice what's missing. Leslie said, what's missing in this photo? Anyone have a guess? Yeah, probably the fact that the water is still. Remember, when it gets colder, that does slow down the winds, and that's exactly what we saw yesterday with that cold front coming through yesterday. That cold front and that storm system producing thunder snow, here's some graupel down in Fountain, Colorado yesterday, and parts of southern Colorado are under winter storm warnings and winter weather advisories again today. Nice shot there of the Ferris Mountains with a cloud cap on it through the Muddy Gap area. Satellite photos this morning show the remains of that low here in southern Colorado. Part of that Pacific storm that came through yesterday now has all the way made it into northern Wisconsin. Northwest winds aloft are coming in behind this system, so it's going to be a chilly, brisk day today. And here's what I mentioned. Anywhere you see purple and pink, these are advisories for snow. And the pink is winter storm conditions. So Raton Pass, not going to be a fun drive today, nor the drive from Raton to Santa Fe and then into the north side of Albuquerque. These are freeze warnings for parts of southern Arizona. Flooding, they need the rain. They're in parts of the south as that system moves out, producing some rain and thunderstorm activity. We have some avalanche warnings in southwest areas of Montana. And you can see the satellite and radar image this morning showing that the snow is kind of in pieces, but certainly there's that more concentration area of snow along the I-25 corridor south of the Palmer Divide down to the New Mexico line. These are your northwest flow snow showers that'll be around kind of off and on through the day today in parts of the northern plains and northern Rockies as that cold and somewhat moist air from the northwest comes in. So this is where we're going to start today. There's that Wisconsin low. Here's what's coming through southern Colorado. Here's the weekend high pressure. Temperatures will be chilly today. Look at these temperature anomalies down in the deep south of Arizona and New Mexico, even into Las Vegas, even into San Diego. Going to be a colder, more January-like day. Then as we get into the weekend, you know what it means when the flow becomes westerly. When the flow becomes westerly, that brings Pacific air in, which means pretty mild air, relatively speaking. Any Canadian air goes into the Great Lakes and parts of the Northeast again, like it's done all winter. And we're going to also see down into the deep south a pretty good shot of colder temperatures move in late this weekend and early next week. But the West, California is not going to see any weather, and the weather gets very quiet. So there's Sunday. By Tuesday, notice that high starts to make its westward trend. Northwest flow right here, Tuesday into Wednesday, could bring a little bit of weather. Again, this is not much, but we may see a little bit of snow shower activity on the axis underneath the northwest flow out into the plains and parts of the northern Rockies. Again, this is minor, but there may be a little bit of weather with that northwest flow and some cool conditions Tuesday into Wednesday. Then there's that big amplification of the high northwest of Seattle there, causing the jet stream to just buckle, shoot up towards Alaska, then take a deep dive into the central and eastern areas of the United States. For the Rockies and the western high plains, if you notice the colors here, notice how if you were to draw the continental divide, so this is just a glancing blow. This is where it gets hard for the cold air to come over the divide. Some of it will. And there's still time for some wiggle of this high, but the high pressure axis right here needs to be further west for this colder air to come further west. If it goes any further east, well, all the cold gets directed in the Great Lakes in the northeast. But it does look like late next week, a glancing blow of colder Canadian air will come into the Rockies and high plains. Question is, what happens after that? Now we're going to delve into what we call the European weeklies. Now I show you these 500 millibar maps, and the colors represent basically temperature. So where you see blue, cold, where you see the brighter colors, warm, where the colors are packed together with these black lines, that's where the winds aloft are stronger or where the jet stream may reside and where you have more weather. What's most important is that where we see the ridges and the troughs form, the highs and the lows. And the next maps I'm going to show you, the highs are going to be represented by the brighter red or orange colors. The low pressure systems will be represented by the blue and the white colors. So if we look at where we're going to be on the 17th, so this is going to be by next Saturday, the pattern, I'm going to go step week by week by week for the rest of January into February here. So wherever you see the red here, you're going to have a high. Wherever you're going to see a low, you're going to have the blue, you're going to have a low. Think warm red, colder blue. And where this high pressure axis wants to be and where the low pressure troughs want to be will dictate what happens with the weather, with temperature and precipitation. So let's just step you through here the next several weeks. Now keep in mind, this is a 6-week forecast. Take it with a grain of salt, as you should. The European weeklies did an absolutely horrendous job at trying to forecast the Rex block, the block in the North Pacific, and to some extent the Greenland block. It just didn't get it. It just didn't get the magnitude or the intensity. So these are just a tool to give you an overall general pattern, let's say, outlook. So week by week here. So this is the 17th, a week from this Saturday. Then as we get into the following week of January, notice the big high, and you will see the colors fading over time. And the fading of the colors means basically less confidence in how intense the highs and the lows will be. So you'll notice a subtle color change as we go forward. So this is the 17th. Notice the high along the west coast goes more westward up towards this area right here, then nosing up into Siberia. Notice where the blue is. Now the blue is back further west into Canada, and a lot of the Rockies and parts of the southwestern United States are under white. So what this is showing is a retrograding of the high between the weekend of the 17th to the weekend of the 24th. So that pulls the colder air back westward. Then we go into the week of the 31st. We replace the high with the low up into Alaska. So what this would mean is, as we get into the weekend of the 31st, the pattern shifts again. And this would mean a more zonal flow and more in the way of Pacific air coming back in. So we're kind of going back and forth, warmer, colder, warmer again. Then as we get into the month of February, notice we reestablished the blue's gone there in Alaska, and we reestablished the brighter colors here. That's where the high is going to want to be. Notice the white here. Notice it's not blue, but you should basically color this blue. As I told you, the colors fade a little bit. And the European model tends to underestimate the cold. So what we'll have here is a lower pressure system and colder air coming in the first week of February. The second week of February, notice how it goes to blue again. Notice where the high is again. So what that means is the first 2 weeks of February showing signs of going colder, and maybe the cold locking in for longer, but there's going to be back and forth. Third week of February, it holds. So what this is showing is that the first week of February has the highest chance of the cold locking in. Between now and the end of January, there's going to be some back and forth. If you take the European weeklies for face value, which you shouldn't in terms of just trying to make a precise forecast, but remember, trend is your friend, and we'll continue to watch these trends on the European weeklies and see if that goes and ends up being the case or not. Have yourself a great weekend. We'll see you Monday.